all of us who have bank accounts, and in case you have not linked your Aadhaar number yet to your account, then chances are that you're being bombarded with text messages and emails asking you to do so as soon as possible. This, of course, because the current mandate is to link all accounts by the end of this year, which is not very far away. How successful have banks been in doing this linkage, and what are the troubles that they're facing? CEO of Indian Banks Association, Mr. V.G. Kannan, is joining us on the phone line. Mr. Kannan, thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us, because this is an important issue. Sir, can you give us any indication as to how successful banks have been, even if you don't have a number? Are 50% of the accounts linked, 40%, 70%? We have no idea, sir.
I don't really have the figures, but it's slightly less than 50. But the way it's happening, a lot of banks are getting requests for Aadhaar linking. And at least in the urban areas, most of the people are getting their accounts linked. The issue is, in many cases, we do not have a mobile number, especially the legacy accounts. And there we have an issue about getting the sending messages to them. So we are sending letters, we are sending messages, we are putting up messages in the banks. And all out effort is on to ensure that the Aadhaar linkage happens, so that there's no inconvenience to the customers when they have to either deposit and or withdraw money from the banks. So okay. I think the effort is on, and almost on a daily, weekly basis, it's being monitored as to how the progress is happening. We do feel confident that in the short run, maybe if there's an extension, of course, it is a welcome feature. Even otherwise, we think that a substantial portion will be covered. Linkage will happen.
Mr. Kannan, there is a substantial amount of confusion right now, particularly among customers who as Ira mentioned, are receiving SMSs on their phone saying go ahead and link. People are aware that there is a case in the Supreme Court which probably is discussing extending the deadline. What are banks doing to sort of allay this confusion, number one? And number two, if 31st of December deadline stays, and if I haven't linked linked the Aadhaar to my account, what happens? Is there any communication on that?
No, as of now, I think the court cases are happening, but since the current mandate and Reserve Bank of India has also said that the linkage should happen, so therefore we are going ahead. We are advising all the customers, and they are linking it. Yeah, technically speaking, what will happen is, in case the linkage doesn't happen by 31st and there is no extension, the account will not be operated till such time as the person comes and gives the linkage. And therefore, it is almost like similar to what happens when a pensioner is supposed to give the life certificate, and there's a time of 2 months which is given by which he gives a life certificate. If it doesn't give it, then he is supposed to approach any of the branches of the same bank and give it. So I think this could actually create some issues later on, but over a period of time, I think people will start linking their accounts with Aadhaar.
Mr. Kannan, I have two questions. One, I think the line was a little unclear. You said roughly about half, 50% of the accounts are linked. Am I right about that?
Yeah, slightly less than that, I would say.
Slightly less than that. Sir, we understand that there is also, like you said, a wide divergence between urban, rural, public sector banks, private banks. Can you explain to us whether it's the private
one of the things is, in the case of public sector, in the case of urban areas, I think most of the people have the mobile numbers which are linked to the accounts. But many of the areas, we do not have the mobile numbers. So sending SMSs and all is an issue. And we are sending the messages to the residential known address. Many of them may not operate. See, today what happens is you can operate on your account in Bangalore, sitting in Mumbai. Because you don't necessarily have to remain there, because that is the residential address, and you don't want to shift the accounts for various reasons. And if the address where I'm currently residing is different, or I don't receive the letters, I may not be in a position to do it. But I think the awareness has been created by channels like yours, which will certainly ensure that people will start linking their accounts.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry I'm asking you some basic questions, but let's take the exact example that you're saying. You're staying in A city and you have an account in a different city, and let's say your Aadhaar card is based in the city you're living in. Let's say you're in the city of Bombay. If it does not link, then what recourse does a customer have?
The customer has to take his, if he has an Aadhaar card, which he's supposed to have it, and then he can go to any branch and get it linked. It's not an issue. Because he has to go, he can give a copy of the thing, give his number, and get it authenticated.
Okay. Just one follow-up as well. What in the case of joint accounts? Would both the holders will have to declare their Aadhaar numbers?
Yeah, I think even in the case of mutual funds, the same thing happened. All the account holders will have to get their Aadhaar number. But primarily the main primary holders should certainly have it. And the second one, maybe that's an option available. We have not really gone deeper into it. We are presuming in most cases it will be a single account. But you're right. If it's a joint account, most of them have to give it.
Mr. Kannan, I have two questions now. One of the things that, the Government Council has said in court, and they said this last time also, is that we are willing to extend the deadline for those who do not have an Aadhaar card. So do you not think that will add to the confusion for banks? Because how does a bank, sort of understand whether they do or do not have an Aadhaar card? It will sort of complicate the problem, won't it, sir?
No. In fact, I think probably the intention is to make them also to go and get their Aadhaar card. And some of them may not have the Aadhaar card. For example, you have got the non-residents which have been exempted. So they may have been mentioning those cases. Extension for the local people would technically mean that that's an issue of getting a link. But yes, they need to get their Aadhaar card at the earliest. So I don't know how it will be monitored. It will going to be a big task on the bankers to get themselves convinced that a person doesn't have an Aadhaar card.
Okay. So just one last question. So I'm just wondering, sir, is the IBA sort of, consolidating banks and bank requests and issues they are facing? Are you all taking charge of this process? Are you the nodal body, so to speak, sir, on this?
So far, none of them have raised any issues except the issue of volumes. I think there's no one else has raised the issue about the linking, because the linking is happening regularly on an ongoing basis. Of course, I'm not saying it's happening at the pace at which it is desirable, but none of them has raised any issues regarding the linking of the Aadhaar.